What up, homies? Today we're going to be talking about 10 art myths that need to die. These are going to be some very common misconceptions that either I myself have believed in at one point or I just see a lot of newcomers to the art community carry with them. Myth number one is, to be a good artist, you just have to draw a lot. I was told this many times when I was younger and it can be very misleading. Now I can guarantee you guys that all the artists that you look up to right now didn't get to where they are by just drawing a lot. Instead, they were very smart about setting goals and targets. Now, just as an example, let's say you're somebody who wants to get better at drawing characters. You want to make them more expressive, more believable. With a goal like that in mind, instead of just practicing a bunch of random character drawings and expecting yourself to get better, a smart artist would start working backwards from that goal and find specific things that they need to learn. For example, facial anatomy, body anatomy, expressions, poses, shape language, and now all of a sudden you've got 5 topics that you can work on over the next year that's going to directly contribute to your goal of becoming a better character artist. So don't just work hard, you also got to work smart. And speaking of improving as an artist, that brings us to myth number 2, which is you have to be talented to be a good artist. Oh, hell no. Now from my perspective, talent equals how fast you can learn a certain subject. And people are talented in different things. Some people are talented in music, some people are talented in coding, but all that means is that they're just naturally able to pick up that subject easier and absorb it faster. So while it is a factor, it in no way, shape, or form guarantees success. 10 times out of 10, somebody who works hard, works smart, and is consistent is going to surpass someone who has natural talent but no work ethic. Myth number 3 is something that I've believed in for the longest time, and that is art is easy for the people who are really good at it. No, it's not. This is a thing that just never gets easier. The more you learn, the more you know, the more you start to see your own mistakes, and the more you start to realize how little you know. So when you see that 20-second process video of a beautiful piece from start to finish, and you think, man, I wish I could make it look that easy, just remember, you're not seeing all the drafts that didn't work out. You're not seeing all the paintings that don't get posted. You're not seeing the days when that person is just art blocked and can't make anything. You're not seeing anybody's bad days. All that is to say, it's not easy. It never gets easy. So when you're feeling like you're struggling, when you're feeling like your art is just not good enough, remember your favorite artist out there who you look up to all the time is feeling the exact same thing. It's kind of nice in a way, you know, it's like a community of people just struggling. Number 4 is art is just a hobby and it cannot be a career. This is just plain wrong, but unfortunately a lot of people still believe this. After starting this YouTube channel and just being part of the art community in general, I've met a lot of other artists and made a lot of friends, and it's helped me realize just how wildly different and flexible your careers can be in this field. For example, I know people who just stay in their house 24/7 and make content like me. I know people who do conventions full-time for 6 months of the year, and the next 6 months they have off. If you want to be a little edgy and cool, you can even become a tattoo artist. And I also know people who do commissions or just sell small things on the side part-time. So no, it's completely not true that it's just a hobby and you can't make a career out of it. But if you're somebody who just wants to keep it as a hobby and don't want to get into the business side of it because you feel like you'll lose your passion for art, I completely understand where you're coming from and I support you. You shouldn't let anybody else try to tell you to turn this into a money-making machine. At the end of the day, if this is a hobby for you, this is a passion for you, it's completely up to you what you want to do with it. And just like with every other hobby, there's nothing wrong with not trying to monetize something that you love. And speaking of monetization, that actually brings us into our 5th myth. And that is, if you do choose it as a career, you're not going to make money. You're going to be broke. Now, I do kind of understand where people are coming from with that because from my perspective, I think art is a very high risk career. What I mean is this is not like becoming an engineer or a tradesperson. You know, you don't just go and get your education, get your certifications, and then you can start a job. And with careers like those, you expect a pretty stable income. Think of an example like this. Okay, let's say you're a software engineer. Here's about a range of salaries that you can make, and there's a top end, there's a low end. Now take an artist. Here's a range of salaries that an artist can make. Now, if you're super fortunate, super lucky to have all the right connections, you might be a multimillionaire from selling expensive paintings to expensive people in expensive galleries. Or you can end up right there on the low end with $0 to your name. So that's what I mean when I say it's high risk. There's a lot of uncertainty, even if you do content, tattooing. My tattoo artist Dane actually said this really well. He said that art is more of a luxury and less of a necessity. So when something does happen, let's say finances take a turn for the worse, the first thing people are going to cut out are the luxuries, which is why making money as an artist is going to be a lot less consistent than with a career like, say, a plumber. But at the end of the day, like I listed in the previous myth, you absolutely can make money with your art, and there's so many different ways to do it. But if you're somebody who's considering actually doing art for a career, just remember the risks involved as well as the potential for less financial stability. Myth number 6 is, if you need references to be able to draw, you're not a real artist, bro. I think we're all aware of how valuable and necessary references are, but most people who say this probably just aren't that familiar with art and don't really know what an artist actually does. Look, all you gotta do is look at the old masters from the Renaissance, the sculptures, the frescoes. You think they made all that with no references? Bro, they were so hardcore about their references, They took dead people and dissected them. So the next time somebody tries to tell you that you're not a real artist for using a reference on Pinterest, dissect them. Myth number 7 is you need professional, expensive equipment to be an artist. No, you don't. Now, I do a lot of drawing on this crazy tablet, but believe it or not, one of my favorite ways to draw is with pencil on paper. It doesn't get simpler than that, and the beauty is in the simplicity of that medium. You can get a pencil and some regular old printer paper for less than $1. You don't need to spend big money to make good art. Now, I want to also extend this to digital tools such as brushes. When I personally started out in digital art, I always wondered, what brush did this person use? How did they draw this thing, make it so beautiful? What is the brush? What's that secret brush? And then after I learned and improved and got better at my craft, I realized it was never the brush. It was me. So all that is to say, you don't need to chase the latest and greatest equipment, okay? You don't need to go buy that new iPad. You might like the look of my work, so you might think to yourself, maybe I'll go buy some of Sam's brushes. Don't do it. I literally just use a basic round brush. That's all you need. Myth number 8 is you need formal education to be an artist. There's so many resources online now, so many professional artists who have actually made it in the industry who are willing to teach and share their knowledge. And if you're someone who's very driven, you're very self-disciplined, then you don't need to be formally educated in the school system in order to be an artist. At the end of the day, when you're applying to a job, when you're posting on social media, all that matters is the quality of your work. But I also do want to add in that while formal training in schools is not necessary for you to become an artist, being in school can really help keep you on track if you're somebody who has a hard time staying disciplined by yourself. And it has the benefit of being around like-minded people who might push you a little bit harder in your own craft, as well as just becoming friends and maybe networking and finding future opportunities for work. So if you don't have access to formal training in a school setting, don't worry, you don't need it, but it does have some benefits. Myth number 9 is you have to be a crazy, disturbed genius to be a good artist. This is a really funny one to me because this mostly comes from people who are either new to the community or who just don't really know much about art. Now take me for example. I am not crazy or disturbed or mentally troubled in any way. I'm just a regular person like you watching this video. And this myth comes from the past where a lot of artists had really difficult and troubled lives. You know, like just to throw an example that everybody knows, Van Gogh. They put bro in a psych ward. But I really want to dispel this myth because a lot of people tend to use this as an excuse, as a crutch to not take care of themselves. I cannot express how important it is to be patient, to be understanding with yourself, and to do other things in your life that's going to better your mental health, which in turn is going to make your art better. It's going to make your creative process so much more enjoyable. So don't you ever buy into this idea that you just have to be troubled and disturbed and just hating every minute of your life and just fighting yourself every day in order to create the best art. You don't have to do that. I want you to take care of yourself, okay? Drink lots of water, go outside and get some sun, exercise, talk to your friends, keep yourself clean, tidy up your space, do what you gotta do to improve your mental health because believe me, it's gonna help with your art. Myth number 10, and I hear this one all the time, is I'm just too old to start learning art. Bruh, what kind of nonsense is that? You are never too old to start learning art. There are people in my Patreon who are in their 60s, okay? Believe it or not. They've sent me messages. And you know how I can tell? They're out here putting like ... behind every word, you know, just talking super softly. And to me, man, when I see someone like that, it's the coolest thing. The best thing you could do for yourself is to never stop learning in your life. It's never too late to learn something new. And another crazy part of this is I actually see a lot of young artists now who feel this way. You know, when somebody sees a 12-year-old and their drawing is really good, but that 12-year-old started at the age of 6, and now all of a sudden, you as a 20-year-old, you're like, man, I'm starting so late. Like, bro, shut up. I'm 26. You have all the time in the world on your side. It's never too late. No such thing. Anyways, guys, so those are 10 art myths that hopefully won't stick around for too much longer. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. Check out my Patreon for monthly tutorials and process videos and a Discord server where we can all talk shit. Anyways, I love you guys. I'll see you on the next video.